What is the closest you've come to dying? A 16-wheeler truck railed the center island beside us on while we were inside an SUV going home. Turns out the truck lost its brakes and the driver had the quick piece of mind to ram on at the center island, otherwise our vehicle would have been sandwiched between two large trucks on a traffic stop. The only thing that was damaged was the gutter on the center island and the cargo on the truck he unfortunately hit as well beside us. Nobody was hurt or injured. Happened a decade ago on our way home on a Friday night. I thank God for the driver, otherwise we would have been butchered meat that day. I had a rocket hit on the other side of a small berm for me. The whole event is a series of weird little mental pictures in my head. First, I'm putting along in my little toy forklift in the dark. Next I hear sirens and I looked up. Then a bright flash and shockwave that while it wasn't too bad, I remember it being abrupt and violent enough that of all emotions, it made me angry. And finally, I realized what happened as I was scrambling around on my hands and knees in the rocks with dirt and stuff raining on me, all that in the space of like 2-3 seconds. In college the RA was my roommate. The second week of the semester he had a conflict with a guy who was leaving food everywhere. It escalated really quickly to very specific death threats by means of poisoning with cyanide. The investigators said I got the dose meant for him. The only reason I'm still alive is that I got dosed, got a 3-minute ride to class and collapsed a moment later in class where my substitute fill-in was a registered nurse. That was in 1999, as of 2016 the FBI still doesn't know what happened to the guy. He vanished after trying to kill me. Was out with my bartender friend and one of her regulars who I had hung out with several times over the course of a year. We all rode together and bar hopped, and at the end of the night as we were getting back to our cars where we had all met up, the bartender and regular started getting into a heated argument. No idea about what. Bartender and I were on one side of the car, regular on the other side. He pulled out his gun and shot just above us. We fell to the ground and he got in his car and sped off. He went to jail and got like 7 years probation. Had an allergic reaction to my allergy shots. I wasn't reacting at all in the office, so they sent us home. I made my mom stop in the parking lot to help the guy jump his car battery, then we headed home. Before she got on the highway, I started having trouble breathing. She drove back to the office and they gave me a Benadryl shot. That didn't work, so off to the ER we went. Turns out they were giving me a cocktail of everything I'm allergic to, not building up one immunity at a time. We stopped going because mom wound up with PTSD from my almost dying XD. When younger I was driving out to a dinner with work friends. The restaurant was outdoors near an ocean river inlet where the gravel parking lot was next to, no guardrails. I drove in, music blaring, saw some friends already there. I looking over, waving and not paying attention, kept driving. Saw everyone's face get scared and then I looked forward and when I hit the brakes and slid on the gravel, one tire was almost tipping over the edge of the side. Another split second and I would have driven off the edge. They have since put guardrails in. I was at summer camp and one day we had a chance to go to the camp's jet ski, and while they had a banana boat and we'll just say the driver pulling us in the jet ski made a hard turn making us go flying off the banana boat. I'd blacked out for it felt like forever, and then when I woke up I was on the boat dock and was told I hit the water way too hard to the point I almost hit a soft point on my back that have killed me or at least put me in the hospital for a few weeks. Thank goodness didn't hit the water with enough force to put me in the hospital or kill me. I nearly choked on a huge marshmallow a few years ago. I had nearly no air in my lungs and I could feel it in the wrong tube. Luckily I was able to squeeze what was left in my lungs to a high enough pressure to force it out. Kinda reminded of doing breathing exercises in marching band and suddenly discovering more air in your lungs to push out. It all happened so quick that by the time my mom turned around for a question I was kinda standing there thinking about what would have happened if I had breathed in instead of out in that split second. I went to a strip club in Mexico with 2 other girlfriends. It was fun until a group of guys asked us to get on stage, then pulled my friend's hair, slammed her face on the table and pulled a gun on us and walked us to a back room to change into skimpy outfits. Luckily they didn't come in that room, and it was put together like an old outhouse. I kicked through a rotted out piece of wood and we got outside, ran to a cab, then rode back to Texas in almost complete silence. 318 Yo, American girls have no business in Boys Town, Mexico. Being a type 1 diabetic. A couple years ago I wasn't taking care of myself and was in a bit of denial with me being a diabetic and started eating whatever I wanted and got sick from it because it was making my blood sugar skyrocket like crazy. I eventually had to go to the hospital and got told by doctors that if I hadn't come to the hospital I would have probably died. It scared the daylights out of me. I was 23 at the time and I promised I'd take care of myself and never wanted to put my family through a scare like that again. Motorcycle accident. Had my left leg ripped off below the knee on the road. Ended up having my left leg amputated above the knee later. Was on the road for 90 minutes before they were able to get me out in a helicopter. Lost 5 units of blood, saw the bright light, thought I was done, then woke up in the hospital. Don't remember any of it other than 2 brief scenes, one on the road and one in the helicopter. I have received amazing care since and I am making a full recovery. Life is short, my friends, make the most of it. Probably one of 2 things. When I was a kid, I was at a water park with my best friend and basically forced to go down a water slide. I hit the pool at the bottom and sank like a stone. Nobody tried to help, either. A bit older, I used to walk 2 miles to my job. I didn't drive at the time. That included in below 0 Fahrenheit weather. I ended up sick for a month with what I suspect was pneumonia. My lungs haven't been the same since. And those 2 times actually brought me closer to death than my suicide attempt. Sepsis. I got it from an improperly treated ruptured appendix. The appendix was bad enough one of the folks called my parents at midnight and said we almost lost her a couple times, but she's okay now. But the sepsis was bad enough that I knew I was dying and became very calm and purposeful. I cleaned my room so nobody else would have to, and when it was late enough in the morning that my parents would be up, I went to them and said I needed to go to the hospital. I didn't want to die at home and shit in the bed. Playing flag football, dove for a catch and came up with an injured shoulder. One of the players suspected something else and drove me 2 blocks to the ER. Walked in and collapsed in full cardiac arrest. Shocked 10x over the next 5 hours. Finally, stabilized and put in a coma on the ECMO machine. Came out 5 days later, then on a ventilator and then had a tracheotomy. Was in the ICU for 3 weeks and another week in the hospital. My heart is very damaged but I exercise a lot and am in better shape than I've been in 25 years. Had clots in my lungs from birth control and a long car ride, started being short of breath on Monday, was told by a provider that it was all my anxiety and in my head. Collapsed home alone on Friday. When I got to the hospital my heart rate was 160 and my oxygen saturation was 80. I spent a week in the hospital, and initially required high-dose pain medications Dilaudid and fentanyl to breathe normally. I couldn't lay flat for the CT scan to be read 100, but it was very clear I had large blood clots all over my lungs. I had classes in high school with a friend from freshman to junior. He would come to my house after school to hang out and was really nice. Everyone liked him at school, really cool dude. Imagine waking up one morning to find out on the news that friend from school, part of the Mexican drug cartel, he gagged, burned and stabbed a fellow classmate because he pissed him off, and it turned into this big manhunt where he was finally caught and sentenced to life in prison for murder. You never know who someone really is. Maya had been a part of some witchcraft in her youth. She had given me and my mom an ankle bracelet and necklace as a gift. My mom got a bit sick and removed the necklace and ankle bracelet. I had decided to wear both ankle bracelets and one necklace and started to lose my energy in the course of 2 or 3 days, like something was sucking every bit of energy out of me, and yet I removed everything she gave us, and as I suspected I started feeling better. I'm sure if I continued wearing it, it would have taken my life. No one said anything happened, but I have always wondered. Years ago, just after I returned home from my cancer surgery, I tried to do my laundry. While sorting through the hamper, I had a sudden, strong, total body, visceral aversion to black clothing. The first piece I pulled from the pile reflexively tossed it away from me. I could hardly touch it. I did not even want to look at it. I had to hide it in the bottom of the pile. I have always wondered, did I have a close call during that surgery? When I was a soldier we had to run preventive maintenance on some of our vehicles and guns artillery. It was winter, freezing out, and we had severe icing. I was ordered to test a hydraulic crane on the back of one of our trucks. As I attempted to operate it I felt something brush past my fleece cap and a loud clank. A large bolt and the nut attached to it was snapped right off the crane and shot into the truck behind me, missing me head by a fraction of an inch. Probably would have killed me. Still have it. I had a kidney infection with no insurance, so I tried to heal myself. Didn't realize it was a kidney infection until I went in, but I struggled nearly a week with fevers, and then the pain and infection caused me to vomit everything I tried to take in. Finally went to the ER after feeling like I was literally on death's door. My potassium levels had gotten so low they were worried I would have a heart attack or stroke. I was treated with 4 antibiotics and vitamins and then started prescriptions at home. Was almost 5 years old and jumped into what I thought was baby pool outside at a hotel. It was not. I looked up at the water surface and thought, oh! This is what they mean when they talk about came the last chance to breathe, as I rose up one more time. I felt a strong painful grip on my arm as some man grabbed me up and set me back on the pavement. Which I thought was strange because I was alone when I jumped. He asks if I was okay, and then, I don't remember seeing him again. Massive asthma attack with no known trigger. Now I have some rough idea of allergies. I wasn't responding to medication and my small town that had already pumped me as full of steroids and albuterol as they could. I just remember everything getting grey and warm, and my skin buzzing. They decided to lifelink airlift me to the nearest trauma center to be intubated respirator. Luckily the trauma center had a few tricks and I didn't need those extremes. I walked out of there that night, still buzzing. When I was 15 I got severely anemic and then got some unknown illness and I slept for about 34 hours straight. I still remember the first time I got out of bed on my own to go to the bathroom. I was surprised how long my digestive system just went on hold while I was sick. I also remember sending my friend a selfie when I was finally able to eat normally to let him know I was doing fine. He freaked out even more because I guess my face looked like I was actually dead. So not very reassuring.